Hello and welcome to Audio Gyan, an Indian podcast for those interested in design, philosophy and arts. Audio Gyan documents thoughts, ideas and insights from known and unknown gems of India who have done some remarkable work in their field of interest. Visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Today I have Professor G V Sreekumar with us on Audio Gyan. He is head of IDC School of Design at IIT Mumbai. He was trained under legendary Professor R.K. Joshi while studying Masters of Design in Visual Communication at IDC IIT Mumbai. He has worked on Malayalam font in Vinayas, a spine-based font design software developed by Professor R.K. Joshi and NCST Mumbai. He is famous as publication designer also and has designed several popular magazines in India including Chip, Digit, Overdrive, Chanda Mama, Society, Savvy and more. His areas of specializations include typography, calligraphy, information design and human anatomy drawing. He has over 17 years of experience as a faculty in IDC, IIT Mumbai. So I'm really honored and privileged to have Professor G V Sreekumar with me. Thank you, sir, for giving us your time and welcome to Audio Gyan.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here with you. I look forward to your questions.
Cool. Today we'll try and understand and know your perspective on design in general, design education, and broadly touch upon topics like typography, publication design, and things like that. So the first thing which I wanted to ask you is if we can just set the context by telling our listeners what's the role of typography in society in general.
Typography plays a very important role in communication, especially when we make use of visual media to communicate in a lot of areas like signage systems or a newspaper or a magazine or anything which when we make use of letter forms to communicate. According to me, typography is the art and science of communicating with letter forms.
Okay.
Need not be fonts. It can be any mark made with an intention to communicate through letters.
Okay.
It can be a calligraphic form or it can be just a handwriting, things like that. So look at the time when we wake up in the morning. Then you look at your mobile and see what time is it. There also letter forms are in play. If the letter forms are not designed properly on the interface of your mobile or your alarm clock, you won't know what time is it. Then nowadays everybody first thing after they wake up is they look at their WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and their email clients.
Correct.
There, if you see, there are a lot of apps nowadays in mobile phones where bad typography is used and you just can't understand what is being said. Today morning you might have seen me looking at the new salary slip. Our salary slip was redesigned because one software gave way. They migrated from one software to another. So today I was very shocked to see the salary slip created by the new software.
Okay.
With no sensitivity to typography at all. Even if I use a lens, I can't read what is written in it. I can show you both my old salary slip and the new salary slip. So many times, even as technology migrates to newer editions and new so-called improved ones, typography is something which people are very, very ignorant about.
Insensitive.
It's very, very insensitive.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the newspapers available today, you pick up 5 newspapers available in Bombay today. They represent the different parts of the spectrum of typography. Some of them are extremely well designed and some of them are really, really badly designed. So there are some newspapers which if you look at it, you feel that, okay, I am in some circus place where there is a joker, there is a lion, there is a tiger, but communication is not happening. And there are some newspapers, for example, Times of India or Indian Express if you take, there is very elegant and nice typography. So according to me, typography has to be silent for the communication to happen really well.
Wow.
The most difficult thing for a designer is how do you be a silent performer backstage and enhance the communication. I always tell this to my students that when you are doing typographical design, imagine that you have gone to a wedding and you came back, you remember the pandit, but you don't remember who was the bride and groom. So typography is like that. You have to enhance communication. You should not attract attention to yourself. So this is one of the basic fundamentals of typography.
Correct.
So many times, if you go to some malls, for example, even if the signage is there, you just don't know where to go. Recently, I was seen one very big 5-star hotel where the signages are so badly done, people didn't know where is the gents restroom, where is the ladies restroom.
They try to be over fancy and then it actually hampers accessibility.
They do some fancy fonts engraved in stone without any arrow given. So many times we see magazines and brochures, and recently one person from a design institute, he's a dean of a design institute, gave me his visiting card and wrote his mobile number on the other side. So I looked at the original design. So in the address they have written his mobile number also, but it is in such a bad design and so small point size, nobody can read it. So every time he gives a visiting card to somebody, he writes the mobile number with his hand and gives. This is a problem with typography. So one important issue what we are facing is good typography is not taught properly in design schools in India. If you look at applied art institutes, for example, so there is this thing that typography is one part of it. The focus is on advertising design, persuasion design. So all the 4 years is spent on learning about advertising design, but no grounding is given on how typography can be used to communicate well.
Correct. Yeah. In fact, the next thing which I wanted to ask you falls on the same lines, that I have seen, I've read articles where certain typography is used by certain set of people to persuade, to communicate more effectively from their standpoint of view. Say, if I can give you an example of politicians, or the protest has placards, they have a certain typography. Then there are certain things like things which are written in regional font to have more impact of what they want to communicate. So, like for a layman, there's hardly any difference between two typefaces. If they are like very close, like Helvetica or Arial, if we compare, they are like very marginally different, but yet they are significantly different for a designer. So for a layman, still they evoke a certain emotion, right? So what goes into making such typefaces that are invisible for the layman but yet communicate very strongly?
So there is something called silent typography. So there are neutral typefaces, where, for example, Helvetica is one of them, Universe is one of them, where the font is designed in such a way that it will never come between the reader and the sender of the message.
Okay.
So the reader gets the total understanding of the content. Reading as a process, if you look at it, the reading, so the person who is receiving a message, he has to read what is presented to him and understand what is presented to him. Lot of designers don't remember these two things.
No, but there has to be a sense of signature work also, right? Because, say, as you mentioned some time back, the Economist has its own typeface. So it also has the character of the guy who wants to communicate something, right? So there is something called a neutral typeface, but then that particular brand also wants to leave its impression on the typography. So how,
so there are some fonts which are created for a specific purpose. For example, Bell Gothic or Bell Centennial. So there are fonts which are fonts created for telephone directory.
Okay.
So it is meant to serve a purpose, to withstand 40,000 impressions per day in metal typeface.
Oh, okay.
So like that, there are some fonts which are created to look technical or to look like a protest font or to look like blood dripping out of them. So these are expressive fonts. They are created with a purpose that it should look feminine or it should look like a computer. For example, if you look at, there are a lot of fonts which try to mimic the feeling of a computer chip or a circuit
courier
board. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So they are sometimes they are created to look like a specific object. So they are expressive fonts. They are not functional. A font like Times Roman, Palatino or Helvetica or Universe, they are meant to be consumed. Large amount of information can be presented through them. So when a large amount of information is presented, the font has to be silent. It becomes almost like it vanishes. So if you look at a book, a 200-page book if you are reading, after the first 2 pages, actually you are entering into the content.
Correct.
Then the font just dissolves into thin air.
Yeah.
It vanishes. Then you are reading the story.
If it's a good font.
Yeah. So the job of a good font in that sense is to make itself disappear. If I said, if you list down 3 fonts which are good for a story, for a novel, for a book, for example, Palatino, Baskerville and Bulmer, for example. Then after the 5th page, if I change from Bulmer to Palatino, you will not notice it because you are immersed into the story.
Okay.
That is the definition of a silent font. Most of the newspapers use that for their body copy. So when you read a newspaper, you should not notice that font and the beauty of that font at all. That is a principle I believe in.
Yeah. Cool. I'll slightly on the same lines. Then how is regional typography important when we are moving towards digital and other mediums, right? So is there any revolution happening within the regional font space, and how important it is for India to have more regional fonts?
Yeah, it's a very important question in today's times. India is the only country in the world which has got so many languages and so many scripts. We have 22 official languages. If you look at the currency note, you see how many fonts are used in different languages. So we are faced with this challenge. We have to communicate with so many languages, so many scripts. For example, like Mahendra Bhai said, the font, the signage system in Tirupati, 5 languages. So many places in Maharashtra you will see 3 scripts being used.
Yeah, 3 is minimum across India.
So as we go towards a digital age, India is one place where we need to do a lot of work in regional languages. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. If you are designing a book in Gujarati, for example, I am designing a book in Gujarati, so when I went to the market and studied, I don't have more than 5 fonts to choose from. When I design a English book, I have lakhs of fonts to choose from.
Correct.
If I design one in Tamil, I don't have more than 5 or 6 or maximum 10 fonts to choose from. This is a situation for the last 20 years, 30 years. It's the same situation. But fortunately, with new foundries like Ek Type and Indian Type Foundry and all coming up, there are last 10 years, I will say there is a lot of interesting work happening in Indian languages, but that is still not enough. But very good thing is, if you look at last 2 or 3 years, many youngsters have contributed a lot of good fonts in Indian languages, but it is still not enough. But we have made a beginning.
Correct.
And now, especially the impact of Typography Day, which we started around 10 years back, is that the regional design institutes are becoming aware of the need for Indian languages to develop.
Correct.
But the biggest problem is we are not taking care of the root problem. A student who is in the 8th, 9th standard should be given exposure to regional language and a sense of respect for Indian languages. This is not happening. NCERT started a new textbook on graphic design.
Okay.
The NCERT students, they can opt for graphic design as an elective. In that, there are 10 chapters, one of them is typography.
Yeah.
But that is not enough. In all the schools in India, I think, we should encourage students to work on the basics of calligraphy and typography in their mother tongue. I'll tell you one very interesting thing is, you look at any state applied art college in India. Ask the final year student, do you know can you do calligraphy in your mother tongue? They will say no.
Yeah.
So I asked many people who are studying applied art in my hometown, my state Kerala, how many of you know Malayalam calligraphy? They say, I know English calligraphy, but I don't know Malayalam calligraphy. Same thing with other states also. If applied art institutes don't teach regional language calligraphy, who will? I'm talking about 4 years of undergraduate program. At least 1 week you spend on teaching them or encouraging them to do their mother tongue.
Or at least make them sensitive to that. Yeah.
In such a big country, we have only 3 or 4 type foundries working in Indian language. It is a shame.
Yeah. It's a sad part, but it's growing slowly.
Yes.
There's hope.
And now, if you look at institutes where students have taken up Indian language font design as a project, maximum 5 institutes are there in this entire country where this is happening.
Correct.
Maximum maybe 10. That's not enough.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, like the conversation which I wanted to have with you was around education also. So the next thing which I want to ask you is like, what are the prospective research areas if people are interested in doing Indian typography?
It's about the evolution and what are the methods, and there are certain rules of thumb developed by our ancestors in typography as well as visual language, that we are not doing any research on that. Like any language you take, what are the things which you can see in your manuscript? In our manuscripts, what kind of styles they used, our ancestors used to write our language. What was the excite, what was the kind of matras they used, what kind of leading they used, what kind of justifications they used. We are not doing enough on that. And there are a lot of complex conjuncts in our scripts. The manuscript writers, they have managed it so beautifully. But our children are not studying or learning from it. Recently, I visited one manuscript library in Trivandrum where they showed me one very interesting manuscript written in Marathi.
Okay.
On astronomy.
Oh, okay.
And it explains how solar eclipse happens and all that.
Wow.
And these are palm leaf manuscripts where a nice infographic is made as if it was drawn with a rotring pen. And then they have explained all the things about solar eclipse with a text wrap also. The text wraps around the infographic.
Wow.
So text wrap first I have seen is in a software called Ready Set Go in the maybe 85, 86 when it came in the Macintosh time. But this is some 1,000 years before. And you should see the way the manuscript designers have done their word spacing, the letter spacing and the justification. There is no river, no bubble, no orphan, no widow, nothing. And their typography is so beautiful. These are the things we need to learn from. And Indian languages, what is the impact on the reader's mind? If I write your name in 5 different ways and use it, how the impact will change in a reader? We need to do a lot of research on that. Tomorrow you have a toothpaste and I have written the brand name, the logo in 5 different ways in a toothpaste, put it into the market. Maybe more people will pick up one among these 5.
Correct.
How is that done? Why is it done? So all these things are done in the Roman script, but not in Indian script.
What is the perception
Yes.
when they see like
Yes.
5 different things? Yeah.
Chyavanprash, for example.
Yeah.
Chyavanprash is available for 10 different brands available. But some of them, the way they have written in the local language and all is very elegant and nice, that maybe an uninitiated person might pick one among them because it looks nice and trustworthy.
Correct. So any example of some things which obviously like IDC has produced a lot of stuff in terms of product design for India. So any particular example where good typography has helped know certain aspects of the society and they have like more closer connection with the society? Like the letter box, for example, if designed in a particular way has changed. Any example which you can think of?
If you look at the impact of typography,
Yeah.
one example is the Mumbai rail map. The way he has, it is very complex information to be, Professor Mandar Rane has done. So, very complex information has to be put it into a very systematic way. In that, typography plays a very important role. So how he has used typography to communicate effectively in a very complex, crowded space like a Mumbai rail map. It's a very interesting part.
And in this bigger scheme, selection of font would be like really
very difficult to do.
Oh, it's difficult to do. I
Difficult
thought
to
like
do.
more
Very difficult to do, and then with a limited choice, it is very difficult.
Oh, because considering regional
Yes,
languages
yes.
as well. Okay.
When I was working on Chandamama redesign, they had editions in all Indian languages plus English. Now, how do you get some harmony between them? So, after I finished the English redesign, then I looked at the mastheads of all the. So, Chandamama produces the magazine in 2 different sizes. English one is big, and the all regional languages are like A5 size.
Okay.
But the mastheads are completely different. Because when they started off in 1946, there was no way you can have the same visual grammar in all the different scripts of India. So the Hindi one will look different, the masthead. The way Chandamama is written is different than the one Oriya is written or Bengali is written. Even now, if you have to design a book, a bilingual book, for example, Bengali and Hindi on the same page, it is very difficult to do the same grammar in both. So one interesting project Sarang has done for Vodafone is like that. He has developed very harmonious fonts in all Indian languages. But that has to happen for a body text also.
And across the board for other regional languages.
But it is very difficult to do because the original grammar and flavor of each Indian language is different. So it is very difficult also to make fonts go harmoniously, get along well with each other.
Cool. I know there's a lot to talk about typography in general, but I would like to conclude with like a question which actually naturally follows the conversation which we are having right now. So how does the future of like overall Indian typography landscape look like? I mean, how these foundries like Type and IIT F are contributing, and how are things moving? Like, are you optimistic about the change?
Very much, yeah.
Yeah, and
they are doing very well. And it is a very, very big contribution they are doing. So seeing them, new youngsters want to do their own type foundries. And lot of youngsters have taken to font design after these things happened. 2 things. One is a internet, that conference called Typography Day. And then the 2 new foundries which came up, Type and ITF, and the good work they are doing. All this are influencing the youngsters a lot. Last 10 years, lot of youngsters want to take up font design in Indian languages. For example, I have one student who finished his masters in visual communication from here, went abroad. He was doing a lot of work in visual communication and UX design and all that. And then he left his job in the UK and came back. And last 6 months, I'm following him on Instagram. His name is Ravan. He is doing lot of work in calligraphy in Indian languages.
Oh, nice.
So this is the impact we are looking at. And a lot of students are taking a font design. They want to do font. They want to develop new fonts. So that is, I am very, very positive about the landscape. But we need to do more. So now,
and so actually, sorry to cut you here, but then what can be done for if younger generation are listening to this?
We
right
need
now?
to spread this awareness among all the UG level teachers across the country, which we are not doing. We have to, for example, there are a lot of institutions in all the states where UG level education is conducted. They themselves don't know regional language typography. Then how do they teach? So we need to make them sensitive. First thing is, I think the government has to do something where all the design educators in the country are made sensitive about the rich heritage we had and what we have lost and in the future what we should do. My dream is in the next 10 years, all Indian languages should be in such a way that we create at least 5 new fonts every year on each Indian language.
Wow.
I think that is where we need to focus.
And what about people who are already sensitive and would like to get into this but slightly muddling around?
Yeah, so that is, I agree with them because it is not a money making activity. It is not lucrative. If you look at font design as a profession, it will not give you the money you need to learn your life. So there is a joke that in India font designers will die of hunger. So all of them do other kind of work also.
Correct.
And another issue which is discouraging for them is after you design a font, there is lot of work to be done to get it up and running. Correct. The font engineering part.
Correct.
And in Indian languages, there is lot of work to be done for conjuncts, the matras, the positioning of the matras, and the substitution to be done. So this facility is not available to the student who does a font. After you design a font, where do you get it?
Correct. There are no keyboards also not evolved enough to...
and you need at least 10 people to work for next 6 months to get your font up and running. We don't have that facility. Recently I found a student of mine designed a very good Devanagari font based on the Universe font, Roman font called Universe. So for that, to make it implementing, we have approached and we are making use of one font engineer in Malaysia he is the one who has developed all Indian language fonts for Apple iPhone.
Oh, okay.
So Muthu Nedumaran, he has offered to do the entire font engineering for my student.
Wow.
So, but 6 months is doing that to get it into a downloadable font. So there is lot of hard work needed after a font is designed to make it usable. That is one problem. We still don't have anything to encourage our students to do.
Cool. I think there's a lot of thoughts going around here and a lot needs to be done. I realize that. I think I would really love to have another audio again with you, probably discussing some more impact of typography and stuff like that. So thank you, sir, for giving us your time, and
Most
it
welcome.
was honor to talk to you.
Most welcome. I am always happy to meet people like you. I am very impressed by the list of people you have done so far. And
thank you.
Very
Thank you,
nice.
sir. Yeah. So that's it from today's GAN session. Stay tuned for more GAN on Audio GAN next week. Till then, bye.